Thank you guys so much for taking the time to chat with TechRaptor again. We spoke last year before the launch of SolForge Fusion, and now I hear you're broaching into more digital tools. So tell me about that.
I mean, it's a funny full circle moment for us because we first started working on the original version of SolForge, which was a purely digital trading card game. Now what, 12 years ago, and then when we launched SolForge Fusion as a procedurally generated, one of a kind, kind of what we call the hybrid deck game, as a physical game, it was always the vision that it would have a digital component as well, right? So we had the QR codes built into every deck so they could be scanned online, and we used Tabletop Simulator as a kind of bridge tool, right? So you could currently scan your decks in and play them online with Tabletop Simulator. But as everybody knows, it's not the best user experience. And so over the last year, since the incredible response we've gotten to the physical version of SolForge Fusion, we have been working quietly in the background on the SolForge Fusion Digital, which is a custom app which anybody can download. They'll be able to scan their decks in from their physical collection, play them online, and then it not only can you just have that joy of the experience of being able to play your unique one of a kind decks with anybody that you'd like online, but we also built in some very native digital elements, not just of course solo playing against an AI, but an entire PvE campaign mode that's also algorithmically generated and lets you kind of upgrade and modify your decks. And so it's like really trying to take the best of both worlds and really merge them into something that nobody's ever seen before.
Was that always the plan to go the full length and create such a fully fleshed out experience, or did kind of things continue to stack over time and discussion?
Yeah, I'd say that it evolved. I don't think we even the campaign and solo mode thing. I think more relatively recent. I mean, of course, we have big picture ideas, many of them that are not in the app yet, that hopefully will be in the app in the future. Um, but it just sort of felt natural and exciting. And and again, I'll let Richard speak here, but I think we're both driven by this kind of like what's new and exciting, and like how do we take the best gameplay of the things that we've seen and been inspired by, and then bring them to bear here, right? So in many ways, we SolForge Fusion, so the original version of SolForge was a key inspiration for lots of other games because it was one of the first, if not the first, like really truly native digital trading card game, and inspired things like Hearthstone. When and Richard's other game, Keyforge, inspired SolForge Fusion, right? This idea that there's algorithmically generated decks. How do we evolve that? And then now, things like Slay the Spire and those kinds of, roguelike deck building games really inspired this in many ways to say, what would it be like if I could bring my own custom decks to that experience? And so it's pretty exciting. And then, I came out with a bunch of ideas, and Richard was very quick to show me why my ideas were very bad and how we could shift them. And he saved us from going on a
Okay, well, you
very bad
can't say
direction,
that
and it's
and not
continued to
tease.
evolve.
Well, yeah, certainly I can't speak of bad ideas because those are fire and forget. We work together and evolve. Some might come to mind as we talk, but yeah, this whole thing of whether what was planned and what wasn't. We believe that the the best paper product is going to incorporate a lively digital life, and we've got a lot of experience in what makes both of those shine. And so from the beginning, the paper product is designed uh, to to be good for digital, as uh, Justin said. In fact, originally it being digital sort of made that almost predestinate. But while we didn't have an exact road plan for what we were going to bring to life digitally, we've got there's a there it's like a playground. There's so much you can do, and so it's a matter of picking and choosing what's going to be best for the community.
It's such an interesting space because you want to be thinking about, we want to make sure that we serve the tabletop player, and that they now all of a sudden their collection just gets infinite more value, right? We've heard this from people all over the world, and it's a classic problem with these kinds of games. If you have a local community that's a bunch of people playing, it's fantastic, the game's great, it's thriving. But if you don't have that local community, if you've only got a couple people maybe that play with, you only play once in a while, the game is harder to stay attached to. Whereas now you could just log on, join our community Discord, and play the game, and you have a community and you have infinite opportunities to play. And so it serves that person. And then there's we want to make sure that somebody who comes to this purely from the digital side and didn't know anything about the physical game and just now comes in, that they have an experience that feels native and natural. And we want to make sure that those two worlds like blend and play well together. And so how we evolve the decks and how we have matchmaking and PvP elements in it as well is all stuff we put a lot of thought into to really make sure we serve everybody with this really one of a kind game experience. Right? There is no game out there that has this true hybrid one-to-one connection between your physical and digital collections.
A big thing that we talked about last year was how into and developed the organized play was. Will this be a place that you'll continue to host tournaments to have larger regional sets, or build it up further?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is another one of those areas that dovetails well with exactly the point that I was making, right? Absolutely, yes. We're going to serve the players who are playing the physical game. Already, we've been running digital tournaments. In fact, we're running several of them right now and on our path up to the Kickstarter, through the Kickstarter and beyond. But we use Discord and we use Tabletop Simulator. So it limits how many people participate, because it's just, you have to be comfortable enough with Tabletop Simulator. And so of course we're going to expand that now, where it's easy to play and simple and connects directly, and the game enforces the rules. And so it can just level up the current organized play structure we're already doing, both in the physical version, which will continue, as well as allowing those same people to connect to the same system, right? Your decks level up as you play them. You can earn extra tiers by playing at higher tier events and winning at higher tier events for your deck. That's all going to continue. And then we're working on additional versions of, okay, what does it mean for it to be natively, evolving your deck and native to digital versions of organized play. And that's stuff that we're continuing to develop as well.
For someone who's wanting to get in with the digital version with the Kickstarter, it'll still be that they'll have to get the physical deck, put in the code to get the digital, or will there be digital only options as well?
There will be digital only options as well. And in fact, everybody that plays the game and backs Kickstarter, there'll be digital decks that are included to start, so to kind of get you started, and you can buy and earn digital decks as well. The goal, we really believe that the heart of the game is the tabletop experience. And so we want to drive people to that. And so there'll be tiers in the Kickstarter. If you just want the digital experience, you can opt in there. And there'll be tiers if you want the physical experience, at various different tiers that you want. We're actually previewing our newest expansion, The Last Winter, which will be coming out in, I think, March or April. And Kickstarter backers will be able to get that first as well.
Speaking of the Kickstarter, I believe it's November 2nd that it's launching. What are the aims for platforms for the game?
So we're initially going to be launching it on PC, and we are going to. The goal is to expand it to mobile and beyond. We made the mistake, in my opinion, from the last time we did SolForge, of launching on every platform all at once. We did mobile and iOS and Android, and we ended up making it. We want to make sure we have enough time to develop everything and make it a phenomenal experience for everyone, and then port it over to the other platforms. So that the goal will be all iOS, Android, PC, Mac, and hopefully other consoles and things beyond that. But we're going to launch it initially on PC to make sure we drive the experience to be the best it can be, and then move to other platforms.
For the people who really want to get into this, what kind of higher tier backer stuff or unlocks are we looking at?
Functionally, there's great deals on cool product that you can get by being a part of the Kickstarter. There's the fact that you're going to have early access and be able to help us finish this game and give us feedback directly and interact with us. And then there's some very cool exclusive cosmetics, including changing your SolForge that you see, changing your character icon, changing your again, this badge, the full play. We call it a play map, but it's really the kind of whole field that play that you're on. So we didn't want to give away too many functional exclusives or any functional exclusives, because I don't think that's fair to everybody else, but a lot of cool cosmetics that show off, hey, look, you're an early backer, you're a part of this, you're a part of making this come to life.
It's pretty important to us that people don't feel like they have to play to improve, but that they want to play. And so being able to get into tournaments and cosmetics and things like that are a good way to do that. It doesn't disenfranchise people who pick up the game later, and it doesn't make it feel like when you've got to play, you've got to put in 16 hours of play before you can unlock all your powers or anything like that.
Yeah.
The rules for PvE are a bit different. We can actually have it so that your deck can change over time there, but since the core experience is the base game, which is a transliteration of the paper game.
So if people are going to be getting into this as a PvE story, or is it a story? Is it more like a rogue kind of thing, roguelike?
So it is roguelike in the sense that each campaign is algorithmically generated. No two are the same. You're going to run through them. You die, come back, try again. But it's also, there's story moments that come in. And just like we've evolved our storyline tournaments in the physical game, right? These are some of the more popular things with a lot of our players. You play in the event, you can not only influence the world of Solus and the world of SolForge, and there have been several events where certain Forgeborn have become corrupted, and the SolForge has changed which faction controls it. A lot of things that have changed, and your deck can get a permanent story that we have writers that will write stories about your decks and events that happened in that thing, and then those get tied to your deck. So if you see the digital edition for your deck, which you can even see right now on SolForgeFusion.com, it has your story linked to it. So it's your personal story. So in the PvE mode, it's sort of like we get to create this collective story together. And so we are tracking in the game when you get proposed to a story, and the Queen Cersei comes to you and offers you a sadistic choice, and you make a certain decision about what you're willing to sacrifice. We track how many players do that one way or another, and then that will influence the story down the road if most players make one decision versus another. And so then that will feed into future of these roguelike experiences. So the story will evolve based on player choices, even though every player's experience is different.
With the Kickstarter launching November 2nd, what does the timeline look like for getting it in people's hands for alphas?
Yeah, so we already have a kind of closed alpha we've started sharing with a few trusted outside parties, so it's really coming along well. There's still obviously a lot of work to do, but we're expecting to have the version, the beta for backers in their hands by February. So really, Kickstarter's running in November. We'll have it in their hands by February, so very soon afterwards. And then the full scale launch is planned for April. So more open beta. I'm better off saying. So we're trying to move very quickly here, but it's a lot of key final decisions and helping us to hunt for bugs and helping us to really prioritize which features they want to see the most is really what we're going to be leaning on our Kickstarter backers for.
From that full version release, are there ideas that are bubbling for what developing the app further past that, or what additional features may be in the future?
It's always hard to say what we're going to end up going with, but one thing that I've always found appealing with massively modular games digitally is an opportunity to play something like Duplicate Bridge, where we're all playing the same combinations of decks, but my competition isn't necessarily against who I'm playing against, but it's against the other people who are playing with my deck to see who can do better. There's an endless amount of things which can be done. I think we're both we're experienced enough to know that what we have to do is pick our battles and do them right first. But there's lots and lots of things which we hope to do.
Well, is there anything else that I have not scratched upon the surface of with the upcoming releases and the app that you're really excited to talk about?
I mean, you hit the high levels, right? I think that the not only the evolving story with what's happening, but with the evolving mechanics that we're able to continue to expand on in the last winter. Right? When we talked last time, there was the version of the game that existed. We introduced the idea of exalts in set 2, where there's sort of cards that exist in a lane that are not creatures that sort of modify that lane. We now have exalts that can transform, and they have the ability to this is not going out till the actual set goes live, right? So we have till the Kickstarter goes live, right? Okay. Okay, great. So I can talk about it. So yeah, we haven't spoiled this right yet, but we will by then. Is that the Forgeborn themselves will have the ability to transform, and so they become this corruption I'd mentioned, right? This what we've called the blight, which has been slowly spreading throughout the thing. So the Forgeborn had been a static feature in play, they didn't level up like everything else did when you're playing. Their powers unlocked, but now they can actually transform into a whole different set if you meet certain conditions throughout the play. So it kind of gives you a little mini quest when you start the game. It's a really cool new mechanic that can like very much change the play. It's one of the nice things about the Forgeborn is they're in play from turn one. They don't have powers right away, but they evolve those powers, and so they create a guaranteed kind of um, shift to the game that gives it a bit more permanence, which is one of the things that I know that Richard had pushed for from the very beginning. And I think does a lot of work, right? Because the creatures kill each other very quickly, generally speaking. So having exalts was one step in the piece where it can stay in the lane for a while and modify the game, and then having these Forgeborn that can, if you play depending on how you play the game, can completely shift and shift the entire course of play. So not as maybe epic in scale as the totality of what we're doing with the digital game and the campaign, but a really cool new element that we're adding to the game, specifically with Last Winter, which Kickstarter backers will have access to.
For folk who think the world sounds exciting and big, but are afraid to get into it, this form of game is really very dabbler friendly. The dam to be used once and thrown away, but to have lots and lots of replay value and different ways you can go about playing them. So with Keyforge, for example, there were players who got large collections of decks, but there were ones who really liked the game, and they only ended up with a few decks and got plenty of play value out of it.
Excellent. Yeah, love the idea of totally new mechanics getting added on top. The idea of pulling out the your main character to really boost them up sounds like it'll be a blast for people who are watching this now. You can go and check out SolForge Fusion. Are you just calling it the mobile app? Is there a key name to go with it?
SolForge Fusion Digital.
Oh, nice and easy. Rolls off the tongue. SolForge Fusion Digital will be on Kickstarter at the moment.